We're sitting down with ESPN's Laura Rutledge, who will be the sideline reporter for the Broncos matchup against the Patriots on Monday. Now, Laura, before we get to the game, I just want to hear your thoughts on all of this coronavirus craziness. Did you ever think we'd see a Tuesday night NFL game?
You know, I feel like we should have been prepared for this going into a season that we knew was going to be unprecedented. And, even from the beginning, the NFL said we expect positive cases, and it's just going to be a matter of dealing with it and handling it. And of course, trying to limit the spread and make sure that people are as healthy as possible. And I think that really is why you did see players opt out. Some people just were not going to be comfortable with the NFL stance on that. And I still think it's important to point out that overall, the NFL has done a good job of keeping everybody healthy and safe. And, there's obviously been some specific test cases here and specific scenarios that have happened. Certainly what's happened with the Tennessee Titans sticks out, but it was going to be this. And I think just trying to work through it and make it work is the most important thing. And hopefully too, some of what's happened over this past week or 10 days is a good wake up call for everybody that, look, even if you thought you were following the protocol, maybe follow it a little closer.
Yeah, I think we should all just be thankful that there's still a season going on and that everyone is still safe.
Right.
All right. Now to the game a little bit. From the national perspective, what do you think about this matchup as a whole? Is there anything that excites you about it?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. I think there's so much. There's certainly question marks around the Patriots quarterback situation. We're not exactly sure, who we're going to see there. There are some loopholes in the COVID protocol with especially an asymptomatic guy, which Cam Newton, as far as reporting has gone, is asymptomatic, and everything we're hearing says that. So you just wonder. And then on the Broncos side of things, how do you plan for that? And certainly it's a lot easier to plan for Jarrett Stidham or Brian Hoyer than it is for Cam Newton. So maybe it's a relief if they don't see Cam Newton, but that's going to be difficult for a variety of reasons. And I've been impressed by what this Broncos defense at times has been able to do this year. And Bradley Chubb, who we were able to speak to already this week, really said a lot of things that stuck out to me. Like, I can just see his leadership really beginning to grow and develop. And on a team that it seems like every other day it's another big injury for this team, and they really don't have, a lot of healthy veteran players. Chubb stepping up from a leadership standpoint. On the offensive side, they're just very young. And so you can kind of get excited about the future. I was impressed. I understand he turned the football over, but I was impressed with Brett Rypien. He's a guy that I covered all the way back to his days at Boise State when I used to do Thursday night college football on ESPN. So it was cool for me to see him out there, but really a guy who's a student of the game. And I think that he's taking this opportunity so seriously. And I think he showed that he can be a guy that the Broncos can win with. So if it ends up being him, and listen, I'm a huge fan of Drew Lock too, so I hope that he gets healthy. But I do think they'll be conservative with that, and they should be, because why put him out there if he's not healthy? And one thing too, some of these guys are injured, but this young receiver for the Broncos is exciting. So no matter who's at quarterback, you've got some great guys to throw the football to. I covered Jeudy a ton in college, so it's fun to see him having success. I think he's getting more and more comfortable in this offense, and we've seen that over the last couple of weeks even more. But there's just a whole arsenal of weapons there for whoever gets to throw the football.
There certainly is. As you mentioned, the Broncos have been plagued with a ton of injuries this season, just like every other NFL team, it seems like. But one positive note is that Phillip Lindsay will be active for Monday for the first time since the Broncos season opener. How much of an impact do you think we'll see from him?
I think he's huge. He is such a difficult guy to cover and to bring down and to tackle. And he's a real weapon for them. And especially with, let's say it's Drew Lock or let's say it's Brett Rypien. Either way, there's some uncertainty with the quarterback. Having a guy like Phillip Lindsay, who's such a reliable guy, who's been out there, who's done so much, he can be real pesky to a defense. So certainly Belichick will have him schemed up and they'll be prepared for him. But I think he offers just a unique element to this Broncos offense, and it'll be great to see him back in action.
Especially with Melvin Gordon there too. Now, due to all those injuries, we've seen a ton of rookie step up for the Broncos this season. You mentioned Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Lloyd Cushenberry, Michael Ojemudia, just to name a few there. I know you talked about Jeudy, but what do you think about some of those other guys, and who kind of stands out to you in that group?
Yeah, it's been fascinating to see these guys kind of thrust into the spotlight. And like I said, I do think it makes you excited as a Broncos fan for the future. I realize Broncos fans are probably like, listen, we want to win right now and we don't want to be, patient anymore. But they do have a lot of real talent on this team. I've been impressed with Wood Cushenberry a lot, I think, to pick somebody other than Jeudy. And that's a tough position to be kind of forced into the spotlight with. So I think he's done quite well. And yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit for these guys. We've seen a lot of them step up in big moments. And, even though maybe the record hasn't always shown exactly what they can do, from the win standpoint, I think you take little wins as you go along with seeing these guys get real experience. And this is going to be no different, a huge spotlight on Monday Night Football for some of these guys to really show what they're made of.
A rough start to the season for the Broncos, but they did get their first win last Thursday against the Jets. How important do you think it is for the Broncos to ride off that momentum heading into Monday?
Yeah, I think it's huge. And look, I mean, that win certainly wasn't perfect, and people can say, oh, well, it was the Jets. But listen, a win in the NFL is a win. And to be able to come away from that game when you don't have Drew Lock, you don't have your starting quarterback who's not healthy, it wasn't ideal, for a variety of reasons for the Broncos, and yet they still get the win. And I think that there are teams that might have crumbled under all of that. And so to be able to walk out of there with a W and to say, listen, we know some things that we need to fix. Certainly the turnovers offensively stick out as a huge thing that will be fixed, I believe, or at least they're going to do everything they can to fix that. I think that makes a total difference. Imagine that game if Brett Rypien doesn't turn the football over. You're saying, wow, this guy's the answer at quarterback, because really other than those turnovers, he showed a lot of really good things. So I think from that standpoint, that is some nice momentum to ride. I can tell you just from talking to these guys this week, over the past 24 hours or so, when we found out we got this game, they really are confident and they feel good about their game plan, good about their preparation for this game, despite a lot of uncertainty surrounding it. So I do think they're taking kind of what they learned from in that Thursday night game and that win and applying it to this week.
Laura, it's been such a pleasure. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.